Hi all, I'm Sham. I have Kishan with me.
Hi, Sham.
So the last couple of weeks we were, diving into crypto. We had a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. We had a guest speaker who kind of gave us a brief intro on how these things work. Um, and while we were busy with our foray into crypto, a lot of goofy things were happening in the US um, uh, regarding a short squeeze. Now, our Substack kind of gives you an intro of what a short squeeze is and why it occurs. So before we get into that, all I can say is there are a lot of mini short squeezes that keep happening that we never hear about, right? There are a lot of people who short stocks. It's not, it's usually nothing really happens, right? People short stocks, they sell futures, they buy puts all the time. So typically it never makes the headlines. But in this case, what happened was pretty unique. It
Yeah.
got sort of embroiled with the whole retail versus Wall Street. I don't know, political calculus. A lot of Twitter heroes got into the fray, duking it out, and it's just fascinating. But before we do that, let's start from the top, right? So, what exactly is shorting? So, Kishan, do you want to jump in and give a brief intro on what shorting really is?
Well, I've had to explain this to to a few people like last week. You know, starting with what shorting is, and it's always. It's such an easy concept for us to, you know, understand, but it's very hard for like one person who has never, encountered this word before in this context. So, the thing I say that is, when you uh, think think you like, you see this property somewhere, and you think that it should not be worth 5 crores, it should be worth 3 crores, right? You say, okay, I sell that house which I don't have, by borrowing money from the person who owns the house, and tell him that if 5 years from now, if this house is worth 3 crores, I'll I'll buy it from you, and till that time, I will I will pay you interest, you know, uh, and he says, okay, I will allow you to do that, and you pay me interest because the person who owns the house perhaps thinks that his house would not be worth 3 crores. Uh, but if it does go down to 3 crores, he would you would buy the you would it's essentially either he will pay the 2 crores, the profit that you have made from selling it at 5 crores and buying it back at 3 crores, or else he would sell you the house at 3 crores. That is not the purest or the right explanation in what it did with, but it gives the gist of the idea. Obviously, in the real world, you cannot short houses. You can't short say things like like real things like you cannot go you know go to a jewelry store or say that I'll short your store. But if it's a company, if the jewelry store is a company, you could go to a market and say that I think this company is overvalued, and I think it should be worth far less than what it is. And essentially, what you wanted to do with the house, you could do with the jewelry company. And that is what shorting is. Essentially,
Right.
you can express yourself in two ways. Most people think you can buy low and sell high. You are first selling high and you're buying low, which is essentially what shorting is.
Right. So the fascinating thing is these sort of short squeezes, right? They typically don't happen shouldn't happen nowadays because of extensive regulation and reporting requirements. So it is kind of understood that people who are actually shorting um, for a specific reason, right? So the post sort of gives you the main reasons why somebody would want to short a stock. It's not always that they find something overvalued and they want to short it. So there are other reasons why you would want to do it. Typically, like if you're doing some sort of a relative value, long short kind of thing, it's not always driven by overvaluation or you think it's a bad company. You're just shorting it because you want to hedge your book. You want to do other things. So there are very few people who actually have the mandate to short something purely based on valuation, right? Very few short sellers out there. So those guys are very careful where they tread, because these sort of short squeezes keep happening, and most of the time we don't hear about it because it just blows up one or two books, like maybe a billion here or a couple of billion there, and you never hear about it. But in this case, what happened is, it like the GameStop, right? It was such an obvious short. Like if you look at the business, it is, bless you,
So,
it is retailing, game DVDs, in an era where almost all games are being sold online through subscriptions and so on and so forth. So it's a dead model. Um, and the pandemic hit, and everybody, forget about game DVDs. People just stopped going to shops as well. So their entire business model was, like it's done, right? So it's such a well-known problem company. And
yeah.
I think most investors just got too excited and got too carried away with it, and they kept shorting it to a point where its short interest was like two times or something. It's a free float, so they kept borrowing the stock from each other and kept shorting it, and and this thing has been brewing for a while, as well. So the first report that came out about GameStop was a few years ago. It's not even a recent short. People have been looking at this company and shorting it for a while. And and the problem is, the last short was at $3. I don't know what sort of a numbnet would short a company at $3, because all you're going to make is $3 if it goes to zero. Like it's
And
stupid.
if it goes to even 9 or 10, you lose 7.
Yeah, and it's completely idiotic. And but they went ahead and did that anyways. So what really happened was a short squeeze of epic proportions. So there were these guys on Reddit who picked up on this, and they were like, let's just squeeze the hell out of it. So everything else is basically theater and politics, but you know, they did identify a fairly broken trade, where most of the street was net short and short humongously, and they just bought up shares and squeezed it. So,
Let, let me add something
it's
sharp. Um, you know, GameStop was a very unique situation. You mentioned the company. If you know anything about games and gamers, it's a very tight knit community, right? And it's a kind of tech community which is pretty unique in the sense that it's very, um, I wouldn't say radical, but the community members are very hard driven about about the game industry, and while retail might be dead, the thing about games is that there's a new console. The new consoles out. So you're in a new trend where there's a game demand, and even now, game disc are like popular. Because to download the game, it's still like 70, 80 GB. that takes a lot of time and bandwidth for you to do it, even in a country like US. So I think GameStop was a pretty unique situation, and as you mentioned that there were more shorts than the outstanding stock out there in the market, which is pretty unique, and it's not a thing that will likely repeat anytime soon. But there have been other short squeezes, right? I remember in, I mean, you hear this term in India called short covering rallies, right? I hear it almost every other day now. Or the market went up because of the short covering rally, and a short covering rally is a maybe a smaller cousin of a short squeeze. But apart from that, we have seen other companies which have been where you've seen a short squeeze and they rise up pretty sharply when that squeeze happens. I remember Tesla. I've read tons of extremely good research and by shorts on Tesla. By very very good houses, extremely well detailed research, and and Tesla. I mean, I for one believe all the research I read that Tesla is a goner. It's not a thing, but when Tesla is moving up, there was a time last year where it moved up, uh, in full proportional, mode where it just went up, and stocks were forced to close, and and it went up even more because of that. So we see it time and again. I think that this is very likely, especially. Uh, so what indicators do you use, or or what or how do you identify a potential short squeeze?
I feel most of it. Look, there are obviously indicators like the ratio, right? What is that called? Short
Short interest.
short interest. But the thing is that can be misleading. So in 2008, we discussed this in the post as well. In 2008, Volkswagen, had a squeeze of epic proportions. So everybody underestimated how much of the float was actually available to trade, because Porsche had quietly gone and locked up and cornered all the stocks, of Volkswagen. Most of it was, and the other remaining stuff was held in index funds and sovereign funds. So so when the funds wanted to cover their shorts, they just couldn't find the shares. So that metric is kind of misleading, because it doesn't take away stocks that are held in funds that will never sell, right? Like an index fund will never sell its shares of Infosys, for example. It's mandated to hold X% of Infosys in its fund. Is going to hold it. So if we have a lot of investors, in these sort of index funds and sovereign wealth funds and so on, they'll never sell. So that so the float, the actual free float available to trade can be completely different from what that ratio is calculated on. So I think my favorite thing in all this is, keep a check on sentiment. So you mentioned Tesla, right? So Tesla was such a well discussed short. I mean, that short thesis was known to everybody for like months together. And there were people who were doing all this scuttlebutt stuff, sending drones over Tesla, delivery lots, and saying, oh, there's so many Teslas just lying here, there's nothing being delivered.
Yeah.
They're assembling cars by hand, everything is falling apart. you know. So, and the thing is, all this is true, but the trade was wrong, because everybody had piled into it, and they had underestimated, Musk's brazenness in pumping his own stock. And he did this famous funding secured at
Yeah.
$420, right?
Yeah.
So that was like the turning point of of that stock. and it just became a reflexive thing. So the first guys covered their shorts, and that sent the stock higher, and then other people were forced to cover their shorts as well, and it just went up to the moon. And on top of all this, you had people like Kathy Wood who would say Tesla's share price should be $1,000. So
I mean, I think, but both the sides, had extremely good research. I've read both ARC and both the thing, and both are good. But the thing is, how do you identify a good short squeeze? Because for me, it's like you have to be extremely lucky to be in one of them, because um, yeah, shots get it right a lot. Also, like Muddy Waters. I think it was not Muddy Waters, but somebody else. Went and investigated this Chinese company called Luckin Coffee.
no, it was the same guy. It's the same. You know. Uh,
Muddy Waters, right?
I don't think it was Muddy Waters. I think it was the same guy, not Melvin. The guy behind Citron Research, the same guy.
Okay. No, because what happened is they went to every. I mean, they sent people down to cafes and they counted how many people who came into the cafes. Like not just one cafe, like like hundreds of locations, and they had. I mean, that's extremely good. Research. I mean, no stock analyst. Like the research reports you read does that kind of work. They don't even visit that. I mean, if a dealer store is right down the road, they wouldn't even visit that. But
Yeah.
they sent somebody all the way to China to to find, and that's extremely good research and good work, And Luckin Coffee turned out to be a scam, and that's why the short worked. But imagine if Luckin Coffee had was able to pump its stock up, then the short squeezes you know would fail, and
Yeah.
the company would be able to raise capital, you know. Uh, and fix all its problems, so to say,
Yeah,
Do you
so
think?
there's a lot of things that need to come right for a short squeeze, right? Because after squeezing GameStop, the same Reddit board tried to squeeze Silver and a
Yeah,
couple of other companies. So
it,
all of them kind of
it's
crashed
not the
and burned.
same thing. I mean, you can do it once, or once, like, properly. The rest of the time is just, you are shooting for. I mean, you're shooting for the moon. I mean, not.
Yeah, but I think that's what was fascinating about the GameStop thing. It was initiated by a bunch of Redditors, whereas most of the time these short squeezes are one shark fighting another shark, right? Um, this whole Volkswagen thing was also, Porsche versus other, hedge funders. So I love this Porsche story because, the way they executed the squeeze was, was phenomenal. I mean, I just love that. So they quietly went and they didn't even buy the stock on margin. They bought it with cash through different banks in stealth. And they kept buying Volkswagen to a point where they had cornered pretty much all the free float available out there. And then they go and disclose the news on Sunday. Okay, so making sure that none of the funds could cover during the weekend, and nobody had advanced knowledge of this. So on Monday, like all funds were trying to cover at the same time. It wasn't even like Europe first and then the US, because when you release the news on Sunday, everybody had this news on Monday's open. And and there was a mad dash to cover it, and it just busted quite a few hedge funds who had shorted Volkswagen stock. So and Porsche walked away with like some $10 billion or something. So, which they needed to sort of weather out the 2008, credit
Right.
crisis, right? So it was beautiful in its execution and the way it was done. So So there was none of this, political angle to it, in the sense there was no retail versus Main Street or Wall Street kind of a game being played. There was no Reddit post, there was no diamond hands, and no to the moon, right? So, it was a good deal. But the thing is, there's no way to actually be sure that what you're doing is actually going to work in a squeeze. It's entirely down to market dynamics and what's out there, and what people call short covering in India is nowhere close to a squeeze, right?
Yeah.
Nowhere close. In India, I don't think a squeeze can ever happen, because you have all these maximum position limits and all that stuff, which is at something ridiculous, as like 80% of free float or something like that. So the minute your total open interest reaches that point, they freeze trading in those, not freeze, but they don't allow you to open
To
positions in
build
that
new
particular.
position.
Yeah. So you're never allowed to overextend yourself anyways. So there's no question of a squeeze. So most of what you hear about short covering rallies is it's some benign version of
Shut.
of this, and I'm not even sure whether it is really short covering or not, because look, if you
It's
have a
just
big
market.
enough book, yeah, I mean, if you have a big enough book, you're going to hedge it. So, the natural tendency for Nifty is to be short, right? Very few people are going to take leverage longs on the
Yeah.
Nifty, unless they're just out and out speculating on the index. So the natural thing for portfolio managers is to hedge by shorting the Nifty. So when they so when they cover the shorts, they're just getting more long. So I don't get it. It's not really
Yeah.
anything.
I think it's very important in India. Um, I think most large books, as you said, would be hedged. Hopefully, I mean, it would be, but I think, I mean, I've seen many shots in India, right? I think RCOM for one, you know. I remember reading this hilarious post on Money Control forum, you know,
Yeah, I
of
don't know
this guy.
how true that is.
that
He was like
that
sad that Arcom is getting delisted.
I know that exactly that every time I went up I used to short numbers. Yeah, and there been other companies where I think in India, uh, short squeezes, not short squeezes, but being short has backfired. But I mean, is there a way? Is there a systematic way to make money out of this? Like either 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 I mean like either betting on short squeezes or betting on uh, even like unwinding of shorts, and just betting on the values. Is there a way to make
So,
systematically?
look, the problem with this is I don't think there's a systematic way. So one of the problems here is, so I've looked at this long short momentum using futures, right? So what
Yeah,
happens there is the short side always trips you up. Okay, so most of the time it will be short things. Back in the day, I remember it was short idea, and
yeah,
Kumaramangalam Birla comes out and says that say some nonsense that he's not going to raise capital, or Vodafone is behind him, something like that, and the short just rockets up 5%. So on a levered basis, right? 5% on
is
on a
it
10 lakh, yeah, it's a pretty huge sum, and you don't even get time to react, because the news
the
hits and the
stock
stock,
moves? Yeah,
yeah, moves.
yeah,
So all your nonsense, trailing stop losses and all, by the time they compute, you're already in the red on that position. So So I have been on the receiving end of these kind of moves, but the sad fact is I don't think there is a systematic way to do it, because systematic way will always point you towards the consensus. So it says that, if it's a low momentum, declining momentum stock, you short a basket of it and you should be able to make money. And relative to a long momentum, long strong momentum stocks. So when you put the two together systematically, you will make a decent chunk of change. But it will have these periods where you will get whacked by some event like this. And unfortunately, there is no I mean, there's no good way to kind of predict these squeezes.
Yeah, I mean, you do have, short only. Strategies out there. There are many funds which are short only, but even the ones who are short only, like Jim Chanos's, you know, they are actually 100% is invested, towards the index, and they levered, 100%. Of the book on the short side. So so basically they hedged against any up market, like market move on the other side. Uh, so that if there's any a trending up market, um, they are still hedged, somewhat, not fully, but some, at least, partially, of the positions, and they have some cover to take. Uh, if you're betting on a if your entire strategy is to bet on short squeezes, wouldn't you also have some kind of a hedge? So that
Yeah.
you might have these short squeezes probably happen once in a while, but when they happen, they provide you that outsized return. But in that, but in normal course of period, you at least earn what the market is earning, so that your fund is.
Right. So the thing is, it's not a hedge, right? You can't really short the market and use the proceeds to go hunting for squeezes. But what I've seen people do is um, so uh, uh, what they'll do is they figure out a way to um, de-risk the Nifty, right? So in the sense, you're not taking 100% uh, of Nifty's risk. So either they, um, uh, they're long the index through futures and partially short, or they've taken the puts, so that the overall volatility of that package is low, right?
Right.
And they're capturing at least half the upside, right? So if the Nifty moves up by 10%, that particular thing will go up by 5%, but it'll have less than half the volatility of the index itself. So if the index drops 20%, they may be only down maybe 8 or 9%, right? So less than half the volatility. So if you can manage that, then you can lever that up. So for every 10 lakhs of capital, you can probably take 30 lakhs of the exposure to that, right? So now what you do is, you know so you have a levered long on this, and whatever remaining money you've raised from your clients, right? You kind of use that to go short squeeze hunting. So when you construct a package like this, your client is still getting, say maybe 1.1%, 1.1x or 1.2x of Nifty returns, and whatever money you lose, um, in the squeeze hunting, you're kind of making it up on the Nifty side of things.
Right.
So I've seen funds try to balance it out like this. So they lever up the benchmark, either Nifty or S&P 500 strategy. Making sure that it's still low vol and it's not going to blow up their fund. And they use some of the funds that they've raised to do this, so that overall you're still beating the
Then
Nifty or the S&P 500, but you're doing so while making sure that if your squeeze hunting sort of is successful, then you make, like, it's like a right tail event, right?
right.
So you make like a huge profit on that, on those trades. So I've seen funds do this, but I don't know how feasible it is,
To do it.
yeah, in India. So
All right. All right. Interesting.
yeah. So anyway, with this, let's wrap this up. Yeah, I feel the post is too big, so I'll try and edit it down. But I hope that it covers what the interesting tidbits of of short squeeze, because ever since this GameStop thing, pretty much every publication out there has come out with what it means, what happened, and all that stuff. So hope you guys found this conversation interesting. We'll catch you again next week.
Thanks, sir.
See ya.